So imagine stepping onto the soaking wet pitch to face Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah, that is honestly terrifying on its own.
Right, you were already this massive underdog. But, to even reach this stadium, you had to endure a 35-hour travel nightmare across 3 continents.
Because your country's airspace is literally an active conflict zone.
Exactly. And then, just as you finally get your bearings, this massive thunderstorm rolls in and delays the game for over 2 hours.
I mean, it is the ultimate test of physical and mental endurance, honestly, before a single ball is even kicked.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a match from Group I of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And on paper, it's a 3-0 victory for the tournament favorites, France over Iraq.
Which is, a totally predictable result.
It is. But if you are listening to this, we don't just read the scoreboard here. We are pulling from a huge stack of sources today.
Yeah, we've got Wikipedia statistics, official FIFA match reports, player ratings, BBC broadcast details.
Plus, this deeply personal Substack essay from an Iraqi fan, and a fascinating set of guidelines for accountable sports journalism.
Right, because our mission today isn't just about the on-field achievements, though, Mbappe chasing history is a big part of it.
It's massive.
Yeah.
But we are also applying those journalism guidelines to look at the sports beyond sports. We want to uncover the profound historical and logistical mountains that Iraq had to climb just to share the same pitch as France.
Because a 3-0 scoreline doesn't even come close to telling the whole story when the paths those two teams took are fundamentally wildly unequal.
So let's start inside Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. The weather delay alone makes this game a total anomaly. It wasn't just like a brief pause for rain.
No, it was a severe thunderstorm delay right at halftime. It lasted 2 hours and 11 minutes.
2 hours. The stands had to be completely evacuated.
Which, completely upends the physiology of a football match. Usually players get 15 minutes at halftime. Their muscles stay warm. Their heart rates remain elevated. They stay locked into the rhythm of the game.
Right. Their bodies are primed.
Exactly. But when you force athletes to sit in a locker room for over 2 hours, their bodies start to literally shut down. Lactic acid pools, muscles stiffen, and that mental adrenaline just crashes.
So whoever manages that bizarre physiological reset better obviously has a massive advantage. And the contrast in how the teams handled it is incredibly telling.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, after the game, France's manager, Didier Deschamps, casually joked to the press that his players spent that 2-hour delay playing cards.
Playing cards. I mean, that detail speaks volumes. It really highlights this aura of inevitable victory that the French squad carries.
They weren't pacing the room in a cold sweat.
Not at all. They were completely unfazed. And honestly, no one on that roster embodies that ruthless composure more than Kylian Mbappe, who was celebrating his 100th cap in this match.
And for those of you who might not follow the terminology, a cap just means an appearance for the national team. It's a term that dates back to when players were literally given physical caps for playing.
Which is a fun bit of trivia. But yeah, reaching 100 is a huge milestone. And he marked the occasion by putting on an absolute clinic.
He scored twice, right?
Yeah, what we call a brace in football. That brings his international total to 60 goals. But it's the manner in which he scored that first one, in the 14th minute before the storms even hit, that shows his sheer quality.
Paint the picture for us.
Well, he received a pass on the right side from Michael Elise, took one perfectly weighted touch to his left, and fired this ferocious strike from 20 yards out. It sailed right past the diving Iraqi goalkeeper, Ahmed Basil.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because it's like watching a high-performance car on a wet road.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, every other player out there is hydroplaning, struggling for traction, and taking extra touches because of the slick surface. Mbappe has these, spiralized tires. He just accelerates through the chaos.
He really is like a video game cheat code. He turned a messy, rain-soaked night into a personal record-breaking session.
Wait, what record did he break?
Well, that brace puts him at 16 all-time World Cup goals, which ties him with the legendary German striker Miroslav Klose.
Wow.
And he's actively hunting down Lionel Messi, who just set a new record of 18 goals. Plus, Mbappe already has 4 goals in this specific tournament, having scored twice against Senegal earlier. So he is visibly on a mission.
But beyond just individual brilliance, how did France systematically dismantle them despite all the disruptions? Because they didn't just win on talent alone.
No, they didn't. They did it by capitalizing on micro mistakes with total ruthless efficiency. Let's look at France's third goal, scored by Ousmane Dembélé in the 66th minute.
That was the one from the massive error, right?
Exactly. It stemmed entirely from an Iraqi defensive error.
Sure.
Iraq's defender, Zaytassin, took a goal kick, and he opted for a short pass to his goalkeeper, which is very common in modern football to draw the opposition in.
Right, bait the trap.
Right, but he overhit the pass.
Oh, man. And the goalkeeper, Basil, could only get a desperate toe to it, inadvertently poking it right into Dembele's path.
And Dembélé just clipped it home. It's brutal. And earlier in the match, Dembélé had set up Mbappe's second goal from a very similar defensive mistake.
So they were just waiting to pounce.
Exactly. When you play a team like France, the psychological weight is crushing. You know that if your pass is off by 6 inches, a world-class forward is going to intercept it and punish you instantly.
It forces teams to play with a level of tension that inevitably leads to the very mistakes they are trying to avoid.
Spot on. Which brings up the overarching tactical battle. France used a 4-2-3-1 formation.
And for those of you who don't obsess over tactical boards, that essentially means keeping 2 defensive midfielders back, like a double-layered shield in front of the defense.
Right. In this case, Aurélien Tchouameni and Manu Kone acted as that shield. By sitting deep and absorbing pressure, they provide an anchor.
And that anchor allows the 4 attacking players ahead of them to take massive creative risks without leaving their own goal exposed.
Exactly. It frees up someone like Michael Elise to be the creative engine. Our BBC broadcast source gave Elise an 8.5 rating.
An 8.5 is huge.
It is. He provided 2 assists, hit the crossbar with a chip, and was just constantly finding pockets of space. When you pair that attacking freedom with a defensive backline anchored by William Saliba and Jules Koundé, who were intercepting absolutely everything, it looks like total domination.
On paper, absolutely. But if you dig into the data from our sources, a fascinating paradox emerges here.
Oh, the possession stat?
Yes. Despite the 3-0 scoreline, Iraq's coach, Graham Arnold, pointed out that his team actually outpossessed France at times. They finished the match with 43% possession.
Which, against the top 3 team globally, is a staggering statistic.
I have to push back on that a bit gently, though. If you are listening to this and wondering how a team loses 3-0 but holds the ball that much, doesn't that just mean France intentionally let them have it?
How do you mean?
Well, if you are up by 2 goals, you drop into a low block, defend deep near your own goal, and let the underdog pass it around safely in their own half to conserve energy.
That is definitely part of the equation, yes. France managed the game state perfectly. But it doesn't entirely discount Iraq's midfield capability.
Fair point.
Players like Zidane Iqbal dropped deep and genuinely orchestrated passing sequences. They didn't just panic and kick the ball away. The real breakdown for Iraq wasn't in keeping the ball.
It was a complete lack of penetration in the final third.
Exactly. The area closest to the French goal.
I mean, they registered 0 shots on target the entire match. 0.
And you can trace that mechanical failure directly to the 26th minute. That's when Iraq's star striker and captain, Emin Hussein, went off injured with a groin problem.
Oh, right. And he had scored against Norway earlier in the tournament.
Yeah, he was their target man. When you lose the focal point of your attack, all that pretty passing in the midfield becomes toothless. You have 43% possession, but no mechanism to turn that into a threat.
It's easy for us sitting here to look at a 3-0 loss and critique the Iraqi tactics or a goalkeeper's mistake. But based on our sources, treating this as just a tactical mismatch feels like missing the whole story.
I completely agree. And this explicitly brings in guideline number 10 from our accountable sports journalism source.
The Sports Beyond Sports guideline.
Right. It argues that we fail as journalists if we only look at the scoreboard or possession stats. It emphasizes that sports have to be explained from their social, cultural, and political dimensions.
So to truly understand this Iraqi team's performance, we have to look at the context behind the play. Why is Iraq even being at this tournament such a big deal?
Well, the short answer is that this is Iraq's first World Cup appearance since 1986.
That is a 40-year wait.
40 years. And drawing from the Substack article we have by an Iraqi fan going by the name Smiso, the reality of that 1986 team was utterly terrifying.
She writes that the sound of cheering after a goal usually triggers her fight-or-flight response because of the country's history. But for this tournament, she is staying up until 1 a.m. just to watch them play.
The contrast she draws between 1986 and 2026 is chilling. In 1986, Iraq was embroiled in the Iran-Iraq War. But the terror for the national football team wasn't just the geopolitical conflict outside.
It was inside their own locker room.
Exactly. The Iraqi Football Association at the time was run by Saddam Hussein's son, Uday Hussein.
And Uday used football entirely as a political pawn to project strength during a brutal war. If you think about the pressure of playing against France today, imagine the pressure of playing under Uday.
Right, because if players performed poorly, they weren't just benched or traded. They were sent to Al Radwania, which was one of Iraq's most notorious prisons.
Which is just, I mean, it's hard to even process.
The essay details horrific accounts of players being imprisoned, beaten, lashed with electric cables, and thrown into raw sewage.
Oh.
Uday would literally shout profanities and threats at them over a loudspeaker during training sessions.
How does that actually affect the mechanics of playing a sport? I mean, if you are a midfielder in 1986, you aren't going to try a risky, creative pass that might break open a defense.
No way. You are going to play the safest, most conservative ball possible, because a mistake doesn't just mean losing a match, it means physical torture.
It entirely neutralizes athletic creativity. You are playing out of pure survival instinct.
And the source notes that Uday wouldn't even let the team play tough, friendly matches, like against Brazil, because he was terrified a loss would make the regime look weak.
So they arrived at the 1986 World Cup completely underprepared, carrying the weight of a war and the constant threat of violence.
It brings us back to today. What's fascinating here is how the current team, the Lions of Mesopotamia, represents a monumental psychological shift.
They are playing without the fear of torture.
Exactly. The Substack piece quotes Habib Jafar, a beloved former Iraqi player who survived Uday's era. He said, quote, "I wish I were 20 again so that I could show how well I played."
Oh man, that is heartbreaking. He was 36 by the time he was finally free from that control, so his athletic prime was completely stolen from them.
It's like judging someone's time in a marathon, completely ignoring the fact that they had to run through a minefield just to reach the starting line.
That is exactly what it's like. That 43% possession against France isn't just a neat tactical footnote. It is a manifestation of players finally having the freedom to try and build plays without the fear of prison hanging over a misplaced pass.
But, you know, the shadow of history didn't just vanish. The decades that followed 1986 brought harsh sanctions, multiple wars, and insurgencies, which leads us to the immediate physical realities of 2026.
Right, because it's easy to assume that with the dictatorial regime gone, qualifying for this World Cup was just a standard athletic challenge.
Before we go further into this part, I want to be very explicitly clear to everyone listening. We're strictly remaining impartial here.
Absolutely. We are not taking any political sides regarding U.S. foreign policy or Middle Eastern conflicts. We are simply reporting the factual logistical nightmares that these geopolitical tensions created for the Iraqi squad and fans, exactly as they are documented in our sources.
And those logistical realities are staggering. The geopolitical hurdles of the 2026 U.S., Israel, and Iran conflict completely upended their campaign.
Because Iraqi airspace was completely closed?
Completely closed. Think about the physiological impact we discussed earlier regarding a simple 2-hour rain delay. Now apply that to international travel.
Oh, right. To make a crucial World Cup qualifier in Mexico, the Iraqi team couldn't just charter a direct flight.
Not even close. They had to drive 15 hours in buses across the border to Amman, Jordan.
15 hours on a bus.
From there, they boarded an 8-hour flight to Lisbon, Portugal. And after a layover there, they took another 12-hour flight to Mexico.
That is 35 hours of continuous, grueling travel. I mean, from a sports science perspective, you are destroying the athlete's circadian rhythms.
Oh, completely.
You are dealing with muscle stiffness from sitting in a bus, the risk of deep vein thrombosis from back-to-back long-haul flights, severe dehydration.
While other teams are sleeping in hyperbaric chambers and doing tactical walkthroughs, Iraq's players are literally dragging luggage through a third airport terminal.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Imagine preparing for the biggest moment of your career, but your flights are canceled, you're driving across borders, and your own fans can't even get visas to watch you. How do you even focus on a player like Mbappe after that?
It requires a level of mental fortitude that goes far beyond standard preparation. And those roadblocks didn't stop once they successfully qualified.
The visa issues, right?
Yeah, the Substack author points out that severe travel and visa restrictions have essentially created a tier system of global mobility. She calls it a World Cup for some, not all.
Because the logistics of just entering the host country were staggering. Upon arriving in the U.S., Ayman Hussein, the captain and star striker we mentioned earlier, was detained for 7 hours entering the U.S.
He was nearly denied entry entirely. And the team photographer, Talal Saleh, was actually barred from entering completely.
And that restricted access extends heavily to the fans, too. Because consulates in Iraq were closed following the regional conflicts, securing visas became virtually impossible for ordinary citizens.
The writer notes that nearly 10% of Iraqis live in the diaspora.
For many of them, and for the fans back home, this tournament is one of the only times they see their country represented on a global stage in a context that isn't about war or destruction.
Seeing their team simply playing football offers an incredible sense of hope. Despite all the hurdles, this tournament has monumentally united a fractured nation.
Arabs, Kurds, Turkmen, and Assyrians all coming together to support this squad.
It really forces us to reconcile two completely different realities occupying the exact same space on that pitch in Philadelphia.
Let's bring this all together to wrap up. On one side of the pitch, you have France. They are a clinical, well-oiled, tactical powerhouse.
They weathered a 2-hour thunderstorm, joked about playing cards, and casually booked their ticket to the round of 32.
Right, all driven by a generational superstar who can hydroplane past defenders. But on the other side, you have Iraq, a team whose very presence on that grass is a triumph over decades of unspeakable historical trauma.
And modern geopolitical roadblocks that would physically break almost any other squad.
By looking at the mechanics of both those realities, we actually fulfill another of those accountable sports journalism guidelines we brought up earlier.
Guideline number 8. It explicitly states that journalists should minimize confrontational, warlike language when describing sports.
Which is an incredibly important distinction here. Calling a football match a battle or a war is a massive disservice, especially when one of the teams has literally lived through the horrors of actual conflict.
Sport is not war. It is an athletic contest, but it's one heavily influenced by the inequalities of the world outside the stadium.
Which leaves you with something to think about long after the final whistle blows. We call it the World Cup, and we love this romantic idea that sports are the ultimate equalizer, that once you cross the white line, only talent matters.
Right, that is a perfectly even contest.
Exactly. But considering the incredibly different journeys teams like France and Iraq have to take just to reach the exact same starting whistle, you have to ask yourself, does global sport actually offer a level playing field, or does it just perfectly mirror the world's deepest inequalities?